They told you silence was your weapon. They said if you stayed quiet long enough, they'd come running. But here's the raw truth, folks. It doesn't always work that way. Silence is not some magic spell that guarantees they'll wake up one morning, breathless, chasing your shadow. Sometimes, while you were holding back, healing, reflecting, they were adapting, moving, shifting, pretending. They weren't always sitting in a corner crying over your absence. They had their own silence too, and theirs wasn't rooted in pain. It was built from ego, distraction, and denial. And that's what nobody tells you. While you were grieving the connection, they were training themselves to forget it. This isn't a fairy tale where the one who disappears becomes the most missed. Sometimes the person who feels the most isn't the one who screams loudest, but the one who keeps walking. And maybe, my friends, you stayed silent not just to protect your heart, but because you hoped they'd notice. But when two people go quiet at the same time, you don't always get closure. You get distance, you get confusion, and in that fog, lies are born. They'll lie to themselves saying they're over it. You'll lie to yourself believing they've moved on, and both of you become actors in a play no one wants to direct. But let's not romanticize their silence. Not all silence is peace. Some of it is performance. A mask. You see, pretending to move on is easier than facing the truth that they still think about you. It's easier than admitting that your quiet strength made them uncomfortable. Because here's a fact that never lies. People don't miss you when you chase them. They miss you when you disappear without explaining why. And while they may have acted like it didn't matter, deep down your silence echoed, louder than any argument, sharper than any goodbye. Think about it. If they really moved on, why are you still living in their mind rent-free? Why do they still watch your stories in secret? Why do they mimic your words, your style, your silence? Because, folks, silence isn't forgetting, it's remembering without saying a word. And whether they want to admit it or not, your energy is still haunting their peace. Now, don't get it twisted. This isn't about begging for their attention or plotting your return. This is about understanding your power. You see, silence without growth is just noise, but silence with awareness? That's pure strategy. And if you've been sitting in that silence, growing, healing, observing, not reacting, you haven't lost. You've transformed. You became the version of yourself that no longer needs to be seen to feel valuable. You became the mystery they can't solve, the story they can't stop rereading. So don't let their fake progress shake your core. Don't measure your worth by their rebound. That's surface level, temporary. You're operating in depth now, and when they finally realize what they lost, when the noise dies down and the faces around them start to blur, you'll still be the one they can't replace. You were never forgotten. You were just underestimated. So stay calm, stay grounded, stay silent, but not because you're weak, because you've said everything you needed to say with your absence. And that, my friends, is the loudest message of all. Now pause, take a deep breath, and feel what's shifting inside you. That tension in your chest, that's not pain anymore. That's power returning to its rightful place. You've been quiet, patient, calm, but not weak. And now it's time to speak, even if it's just one sentence. Drop it in the comments right now. I hold the power. Not later, right now. Let them scroll and see the strength of people who refuse to beg, who choose growth over games, who stay in control. Let your voice echo in the silence they gave you. Smash that like button if you're done chasing people who forgot your value. Hit subscribe if you're ready to stop waiting and start winning. And stay with me, because what's coming next? It'll hit harder than anything they ever gave you. Number 1. The echo chamber effect. When your silence becomes louder than their words. They thought your silence meant disappearance. But it didn't. It meant presence without performance. It meant you were still there, just no longer begging to be understood. And here's what most people never realize until it's too late. Your absence didn't erase you. It amplified you. It made your energy louder, not quieter. Like an echo in a canyon, it kept bouncing back in their mind long after you left. That's the paradox of silence. It doesn't vanish into thin air. It haunts. At first they told themselves you were just being dramatic, that you'd come back, that this was just your way of getting attention. But day after day you didn't reach out. No reaction, no passive-aggressive post, no message at midnight. And that's when it started. The echo of everything you once were. Your laugh in their memory, your presence in their routine, your name in a conversation that wasn't even about you. You stopped speaking, but your silence started talking. You see, folks, the human brain is wired for continuity. Carl Jung said, "What you resist not only persists, but will grow in size." They resisted the truth of what they felt for you. They fought it, dismissed it, laughed it off. But in your silence, it grew louder. In your absence, the idea of you multiplied, because you became something they couldn't resolve. And that's the most unforgettable kind of person, the one who didn't make a scene, but made a dent. Psychologically, this is what we call object permanence. It's a term used in childhood development, how babies learn that something still exists even when they can't see it. But here's the twist. This mechanism doesn't disappear in adulthood. It just shifts from physical objects to emotional ones. In relationships, when someone goes quiet, if there was ever a deep connection, even for a moment, your mind doesn't fully let them go. You may not see them. You may not hear from them. But they exist vividly in your mental landscape. And if you made any emotional imprint, that silence becomes a trigger, not an eraser. You're not crazy for thinking they still think about you. You're not delusional for wondering if your silence left an impact, because biologically, psychologically, emotionally, it did. Even if they've buried it under a new relationship, a louder friend group, or a fake "I'm good" energy online, that echo doesn't go away. It just gets harder to ignore. But let's talk real for a second. Some of you might be asking, if I echo so loudly, why haven't they come back? It's a fair question. But here's a brutal answer. Not everyone has the courage to face the things they ran from. Some people will stay in denial for years, not because they're over you, but because admitting they miss you would mean admitting they were wrong. And pride, folks, pride is louder than love in this world. Let that sink in. They may still feel everything, but they've taught themselves not to show it. And that's the war you can't see. While you've been thinking, healing, rising quietly, they've been stuck wrestling with an image of you they can't delete. That's the echo. That's what silence does. It plants a version of you in their subconscious, and every quiet moment they get, it resurfaces, while brushing their teeth, while lying in bed, while scrolling and stumbling across something that looks like you. And suddenly, you're right there, louder than ever, without saying a single word. Think of it like this. Your energy became background music to their life. They tuned it out at first, sure, but the more time passed, the more they realized that nothing else matched the frequency. Other people? Static other connections? Brief signals? You? A signal that keeps returning, no matter how far they go. And that's because you weren't noise, you were meaning. And real meaning doesn't vanish just because they stopped looking at it. But here's the part that requires strength. You have to stay quiet long enough for the echo to hurt. Not them. You. It's easy to break the silence out of boredom or loneliness. But true power, my friends, comes from trusting your impact even when there's no proof. From knowing you were felt so deeply that words are no longer necessary. And I know, it's hard, it's frustrating. You want to scream, "Do you not feel what I feel?" But listen carefully. Sometimes silence is the only way they can hear the truth. You tried talking before, you tried being clear, but some people don't hear you until you stop trying to be heard. That's when it hits them. That's when they realize, oh, they're really gone, and that's when the echo becomes unbearable. So don't chase, don't explain, don't fold, keep building, keep becoming, because nothing shakes someone more than realizing the person they once had is now someone they don't even know how to reach anymore. They'll come back not because you begged, but because the silence exposed their need for you louder than your words ever could. Say it in the comments right now. My silence speaks volumes. Write it. Let it be known that you're no longer afraid of being misunderstood. You're done over-explaining. You've said everything you needed to say, and now the echo will do the rest. Number 2. Microwave verses. Marination. Why they seem to move on so fast. They didn't heal faster, my friends. They just moved quicker. And you need to understand the difference. What you witnessed wasn't growth. It was escape. A desperate sprint into distractions, into noise, into anyone or anything that could silence the discomfort your absence caused. They didn't face the loss. They dodged it. Like a microwave meal that's hot on the outside but frozen in the middle, their healing looked done, but only on the surface. And that's the danger. Our world has taught people to perform recovery, not process it. When they walked away or treated you like you didn't matter, they didn't stop feeling. They just got good at covering it up. Quick outings, new flings, constant scrolling, anything to stay one step ahead of the echo. But when you don't let pain marinate, it comes back undercooked. It returns later, colder, messier. Carl Jung said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. And that's what they did. Absurd things, empty things, loud things, just to avoid sitting in silence and realizing you mattered more than they allowed themselves to feel. Meanwhile, you didn't run. You didn't fake the process. You stayed with the discomfort. You sat in your own stillness and learned the language of your wounds. You didn't need a crowd to pretend you were fine. You let it marinate. And what happens in that space is powerful. When heartbreak is allowed to breathe, it transforms you. When you let the silence work on you, it forges clarity, strength, and awareness. You grow, you expand, you detach, not from pain, but from illusions. And that kind of healing, that's rare, that's permanent. But let's be honest, it's not easy to watch someone skip ahead while you're still piecing yourself back together. It's not easy to feel like you were the only one who took it seriously. Some of you are thinking, if they were able to move on so fast, did I even mean anything? That's a fair question. But here's a deeper one. Can anyone really move on from something they never fully understood? What they're calling closure is just avoidance. What they're calling peace is just numbness. Eventually, it all catches up. The noise wears off. The distractions lose flavor. That rebound relationship, it starts to show cracks. Because it wasn't love, it was filler, a fast cover-up. But the mind doesn't forget what left a real imprint. The person who marinated, that's you, leaves behind a taste that doesn't wash out with time. It deepens. It lingers in the background, in the comparisons, in the memories that sneak up without warning. You're not the easy meal. You're the slow burn, the one they realized too late was actually nourishment. And when they look back, it won't be the fast nights out that haunt them. It'll be the calmness you showed, the depth, the fact that you didn't chase. You disappeared into your own growth, and that will bother them more than any message you could have sent. Why? Because people expect noise when they hurt you. But when you go silent and heal quietly, it leaves them with questions they're too scared to answer. So don't envy their speed. Don't wish for their illusion. You are not a microwave version of anything. You're slow-cooked wisdom, your depth they didn't know how to handle. You're the silence that made them confront what they lacked. Write this in the comments right now. I choose depth, not distraction. Because you're not here to pretend you're okay. You're here to become someone unshakable. And that starts with walking the road that most avoid. Number 3. Cognitive dissonance is eating them alive. They told themselves a story to sleep at night. You weren't that special. That's how they justified walking away. That's how they softened the blow of their own decision. They needed to believe you were replaceable, that what you gave could be found elsewhere, that your silence was weakness. But now, my friends, that story isn't holding up. It's cracking. The script they wrote in their mind, you were too much, too emotional, too boring, too difficult. It's starting to sound like a lie. And lies, when told enough times, become prisons. You see, when someone leaves and expects you to fall apart, their ego depends on that outcome. They need confirmation that you're suffering, that you're lost without them. That's the role they mentally cast you in, the broken one. But when you didn't chase, when you didn't beg, when you stayed calm, quiet and grounded, that's when the dissonance began. That's when their mind started eating itself alive. This is what psychology calls cognitive dissonance, a mental conflict between what they believe and what they see. They believed you needed them. But now they're watching you thrive in silence. They believed you'd crawl back, but you vanished instead. And every time they think of you now, it stings. Not because they miss your presence, but because your absence exposes the truth. They might have made the wrong call. Carl Jung once said, "People don't see things as they are, they see them as they are." When they walked away, they weren't seeing you, they were seeing a version of you filtered through their own wounds and fears, and they had to downplay your value to feel okay about leaving. That's a common pattern, especially with people who carry insecure attachment styles. They get close, then panic, so they sabotage. Then, to protect their ego, they rewrite history. You weren't right for them. You were too intense, too soft, too quiet, too loud. Whatever narrative helped them feel like the decision was justified. But here's where it flips. Your silence refuses to fit their story. You're not broken, you're not chasing, you're not proving anything. And that contradiction, it creates psychological discomfort that builds slowly, day by day. Every time your name comes up, every time they see your face or hear your voice in their memory, their mind splits in two. Part of them whispers, "Maybe I didn't really know them." Another part shouts, "No, I was right to walk away," but doubt is louder now. And doubt, when left unanswered, becomes obsession. They scroll through your old messages. They replay conversations. They compare you to people who just don't match your depth. And deep down, that small voice keeps growing. Did I throw away something real? That's the weight of cognitive dissonance. It doesn't hit all at once. It creeps. It itches. And then, when life slows down, when distractions fade, that tension becomes unbearable. You weren't supposed to evolve. You weren't supposed to glow in your silence. But now they see you differently. Not because you said a word, but because you didn't have to. And here's the kicker, folks. Most people can't live with that kind of internal war. Eventually, it forces them to either rewrite the story again or reach out to see if they were wrong. They'll test the waters. A message, a like, a "Hey, how have you been?" But don't be fooled. That's not just curiosity. That's the result of a mental script that collapsed under its own weight. Let them wrestle with that. Write it in the comments right now. My silence broke the script. Because you weren't loud, you weren't vengeful, you were still. And that stillness, it shook them deeper than your presence ever did. Number 4, the mirror phase. They're becoming who you were. They used to roll their eyes at your depth, called you too emotional, too sensitive, too serious. They mocked the way you cared too much, stayed too long, and felt too deeply. They thought your silence was weakness, your patience was passivity, and your loyalty was desperation. But look at them now. Look closely. They've become a shadow of the very energy they once rejected. Now they're the quiet one. Now they're playing hard to get. Now they're mirroring you. It's one of life's strangest psychological flips when the person who left starts wearing your skin. And no, my friends, this isn't coincidence. This is identity mimicry, a subtle yet powerful psychological phenomenon where people unconsciously absorb the behaviors, tones, and emotional patterns of someone who left an impression on them. You changed their emotional rhythm, whether they wanted you to or not. And now, even in your absence, they're moving to your tempo. Back then, you were always the one waiting, the one sending the thoughtful texts, the one holding space for the conversation, for the chaos, for the connection. You were the calm in the storm they didn't even know they were caught in. But they didn't appreciate it. They thought being detached meant power. That coldness was control. And now, they've swallowed your silence like it's their own. They delay responses. They post in ways that scream unbothered. They talk less, and they think they're in control. But what they don't realize is that they're no longer operating from their natural self. They've lost emotional leverage, not because you took it, but because your stillness made them question how they were showing up. You didn't just walk away. You rewired the dynamic. This mirroring isn't power, it's panic. It's the mind trying to reclaim control in a space where it once had the upper hand. They used to know how to trigger you, how to push your buttons, how to make you feel like you were too much. But now, with you gone and silent, they have no idea what works anymore. So they copy your game. They become the thing they thought they never needed, you. But it doesn't feel natural to them. That's the irony. You were born with that emotional depth. You are that level of stillness, that detachment you carry. It's earned through reflection, not imitation. They're performing while you're becoming. They're mirroring while you're mastering. And they feel it, deeply. That imbalance, that strange sensation that they're no longer the one pulling the strings. Here's what they won't admit, not even to themselves. They miss being on the receiving end of your presence. They miss knowing that no matter how chaotic they were, you would remain anchored. And now, they're drifting in the same silence they used to fear. You taught them how to be quiet, but they don't understand the purpose behind it. You taught them to detach, but they don't know how to do it without disassociating. They're lost inside the image of the very person they thought they could live without. Let them sit in it, because this phase they're in now, it's not strength, it's reaction. They're not leading, they're chasing your shadow. And it's only a matter of time before they realize that acting unaffected doesn't make the feelings go away, it only buries them deeper. So hold your frame, stay grounded, and trust what you're becoming. You were never too much. You were just ahead of your time. Write it in the comments right now. They're mirroring my growth. Because you didn't change to be like them. They're changing because of you. Number 5. Emotional ghosting. Why you still haunt them without saying a word. You think they forgot you because they blocked you, because they got with someone new, because they stopped liking your posts, stopped watching your stories, stopped responding altogether. But my friends, silence is not the same as forgetting, and distance is not the same as detachment. What you're witnessing is not freedom, it's avoidance. Because even if you're no longer in their life, you're still in their nervous system. That's the part nobody talks about. You became emotionally embedded, wired into their mind in ways they can't even explain. You are a ghost, not because you disappeared, but because you still linger. They might have erased your number, but your voice still plays in their head when they're alone. They might have replaced you with someone else, but your rhythm, your energy, your emotional signature, it shows up when they least expect it. A certain laugh, a lyric in a song, the way someone touches their arm or misuses a word the same way you did. That's not coincidence. That's neural imprinting. Here's the science. The brain doesn't store memories like files in a cabinet. It stores them with emotion. High emotion experiences create stronger neural connections. So when they shared moments with you, good or bad, those moments weren't just remembered. They were wired, and the brain doesn't delete wires. It just stops accessing them until something brings them back online. This is why you still haunt them. Not because you're texting, not because you're showing up, but because you don't have to. Their own life has built-in reminders of you. You're coded into the patterns they walk through every day. That restaurant you loved, that nickname only you used, that silence after a long day where you used to be the voice on the other end. It hits them in waves, and the more they try to escape it, the more it echoes. That's the thing about emotional ghosts. You don't see them coming. You think you've moved on, then one small trigger opens the floodgates, and suddenly they're not hearing your name, they're feeling it. In their chest, in their gut, in that quiet ache that no one else seems to understand. But this haunting didn't come from manipulation. You didn't force yourself into their mind. You simply showed up real, something rare in a world built on surface. You didn't love halfway. You didn't withhold. You didn't treat the connection like a game. And that kind of raw, genuine presence, it brands the soul. It leaves a scar they will massage for years, trying to convince themselves it's healed. You see, they ghosted you emotionally long before they vanished physically. They stopped showing up, stopped listening, stopped feeling. And now the universe has returned the favor. You've become the ghost, but not a powerless one, not the one knocking for attention. You're the quiet presence that keeps showing up behind their eyelids when they close them, the voice they try to mute but can't, the image that returns, even when they try to paint over it. And the best part, you're not doing anything to make this happen. You're not posting for revenge. You're not showing up in their DMs. You're just living, quietly, calmly, becoming. And that's what disturbs them most. You're haunting them without saying a word. So stay silent, stay grounded, because you were never forgotten. You became unforgettable. Write it in the comments right now. I am their echo. Because what they thought they erased became the one thing they can't stop feeling. Number 6. You were a chapter, but they're rereading it in secret. They don't post about you. They don't mention you. They've got new pictures up, new people beside them, new energy on the outside. And it stings, because it looks like you were just a chapter they closed without hesitation. But let's tell the truth today, my friends. Let's call it exactly what it is. They're still reading you, just in secret. You were never a casual chapter. You were the turning point in their story. And the reason they haven't spoken your name lately is because they're still trying to make sense of how you're still on their mind. Publicly, they moved on. Privately, they revisit you every chance they get. They scroll through your old photos in the middle of the night. They reread the messages they once ignored. They listen to the playlists you shared, not because they're feeling nostalgic, but because nothing new feels as real. You see, when something is forgettable, people move on without even noticing. But when something shakes their emotional foundation, they don't delete it. They archive it. They hide it from others, but hold on to it for themselves. And that's what you became. Not a fling, not a phase, a memory they couldn't replace, a chapter they never fully closed. Ask yourself, if they've really moved on, why are they still stuck in the reruns? Why are they still watching your story from burner accounts? Why do they bring your name up by accident? Why do they get uncomfortable when someone else mentions you? That's not healing. That's revisiting. They thought they could bury you under busyness, new relationships, new routines, new distractions. But a clean house doesn't mean the ghosts are gone. They just moved into the attic. And in their quiet moments, when no one's around to perform for, you return. Not because you're chasing them, but because you never actually left them. You became a part of their emotional muscle memory. like a song that randomly plays in their mind, like a scene that replays out of nowhere when they least expect it. That's not chance. That's psychological imprinting. The mind, especially when it's avoiding guilt or regret, does something clever. It rewrites stories. It says, they weren't right for me. I outgrew them. But the body keeps score. The nervous system remembers the person who made them feel safe. And even if they're with someone new now, their system is still comparing every touch, every word, every vibe to you. Because you weren't entertainment, you were substance. And that kind of connection doesn't fade. It waits. It lingers. It shows up in every silence where the new person doesn't know what to say. In every moment where they feel something's missing but can't explain what. So don't get fooled by the lack of contact. Don't measure their regret by what they post. The truth is never found on the surface. It's hidden in their routines, in their sleepless nights, in their inability to feel as deeply with anyone else. Because while they're pretending you were just a chapter, they're still on page 1. Write it in the comments right now. They're still rereading me. Because some stories don't fade. They get under the skin and stay there. Quiet, unshakable, permanent. Number 7. Their silence isn't strength, it's surveillance. They haven't reached out. They haven't apologized. They haven't said a word. And on the surface, it looks like they're strong, composed, over it. But don't mistake silence for strength, my friends. Don't confuse their distance for emotional discipline, because what they're doing isn't moving on, it's monitoring, quietly, consistently, from the shadows. And you feel it, don't you? That subtle tug in the air, that unspoken knowing that you're still being watched. Because you are. You went silent, yes. But they didn't let go. Not really. They just switched positions from participant to observer. They're not messaging you, but they're lurking. They're not in your life, but they're in your business. Whether it's through burner accounts, anonymous views, fake profiles, or mutual friends casually asking about you, they've turned into something far more exhausting than a talkative ex, a silent investigator. This is what psychologists call the observer complex, a state where someone detaches physically yet remains mentally attached to the person they no longer have control over. You see, silence becomes unbearable, not when there's nothing to say, but when you know you're not the one who ended it on your terms. And they didn't. You did, with your stillness, with your growth, with your refusal to fall into their games. That rattled them more than any argument ever could. When they were in control, they didn't need to watch you. They had access. But now that you've stepped back, now that you've stopped performing, they're starving for data. Every story you post, every subtle change in your energy, every piece of you that's no longer available to them, it drives the hunger. And because they're too proud to admit they still care, they resort to observation. Silently watching your moves like a game they're no longer allowed to play, yet can't stop studying. But here's the part that flips the whole game. They think their silence makes them powerful, that if they just stay away long enough, they'll regain the emotional upper hand. But surveillance is not strength, it's obsession without confession. It's powerlessness dressed as poise. Because a truly detached person doesn't need to watch you. A truly healed person isn't looking for clues. They aren't glued to your digital footprints, hoping for a sign that you're still hurting. No, the one who checks in secret is still emotionally involved, still hooked, still battling the part of them that's afraid you've actually let go. And let's be honest, that fear runs deep. Because in the beginning, they were sure you'd always be around, that you'd keep reaching out, keep hoping, keep bleeding for a connection that only drained you. But now the roles have reversed, and your silence has become their anxiety. Every quiet day makes them wonder more. Are they done with me? Did they replace me? Do they still think about me? And the answer? Doesn't matter, because your strength isn't found in their questions. It's found in the fact that you stopped needing answers. So let them watch, let them analyze, let them sit in the very silence they once thought made them untouchable, because now it's touching them back with uncertainty, with doubt, with the realization that they lost something they may never find again. Write it in the comments right now. They're watching, I'm rising. Because true strength isn't loud, it doesn't stalk, it doesn't spy, it simply moves forward without flinching. Number 8. The comeback always begins with a memory. They think they've moved on. They really do. New faces, new places, louder laughs, flashier posts. Everything screams, I'm over it. But all it takes is one moment to shatter that performance. Not a grand event, not a heartbreak, just a memory, just something small, a smell, a song, a familiar look in a stranger's eyes, and suddenly, you're back. Not physically, not through a message, but in their mind, in their bloodstream, in their chest, where your name was quietly buried but never erased. That's how the comeback starts. Not with a phone call, but with a trigger. A flash of something real, something that touches the part of them that new people couldn't reach. They'll be sitting in a car, windows down, and a song you used to love plays. Not even halfway through the first verse, their stomach flips. They feel something rise in their throat, a lump, a wave, a whisper. I miss them. You didn't force it. You didn't orchestrate it. That's the power of presence without pressure. You became an emotional landmark in their journey, a place they keep returning to internally, even when their body pretends it's headed somewhere else. Because here's the truth they never wanted to face. What they had with you wasn't ordinary. It wasn't surface. It had weight. And weight always leaves an impression. They can try to erase the path, but their nervous system still remembers the direction. You were safety. You were chaos and calm in one. You were the first time they saw themselves in someone else's eyes, and didn't run until they did. And when they left, they thought they were running toward freedom. But the further they got, the more they realized they weren't free. They were just farther away from what felt like home. So now they sit with that memory over and over, the laugh they can't unhear, the look you gave them when they didn't deserve it, the peace you brought into rooms they only knew how to fill with noise. And the craving begins, not for attention, not for a reply, but for the version of themselves that existed when they were loved by you. They'll tell themselves to forget it, to move on, but memory doesn't play by the rules of logic. It plays by feeling, and the ones who felt the deepest will always be pulled back. It might take weeks, months, years, but it only takes one crack in the illusion for the flood to break through. And when it does, that's when they start circling back. You didn't lose them. You just refused to compete with their distractions. You let the illusion wear off. And now that the noise is fading, guess what remains? You. The memory they didn't know they were building until it was too late. Write it in the comments right now. I am the memory that returns. Because your story isn't over. It's just reaching the part where they finally understand what they walked away from. And here's the truth, folks. If they ever come back, it won't be because you begged. It'll be because your silence, your growth, and your energy echoed louder than any words ever could. You didn't chase. You became unforgettable. That's your real power. So, if this message hit home, like the video, subscribe for more calm but brutally honest guidance, and share this with someone who needs to hear it today. And drop it in the comments. I am unforgettable. Stay grounded. Stay rising. And remember, the comeback always begins with you.